What's up, guys? Big Papa Drock back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. And guys, we are not alone, and we have the awesome, the wonderful, the amazing HWZ on the channel. And if you didn't know, guys, HWZ and I have been talking about this collab for actually over a year, I think, for real over a year, where he reached out to me. He's like, we should do a collab. So another example of me sleeping on getting awesome people on the channel to do collabs. But HWZ, welcome to the channel, bro. How the heck are you, man?
Dude, I am doing amazing. I'm glad we were finally able to get this together. We did the free-to-play challenge together. We were talking about it. We've been talking about this for a long time. But dude, I'm so glad that we're able to get together. I love your energy, man. I love your content, bro. And I just can't wait for us to give the people something great.
Oh, dude, thank you so much. And that is true. You were on my free-to-play challenge team, and we came so close to winning that Hell Hades challenge. Like, we were cooked. Well, maybe not close. I think YST's team was maybe a little bit ahead of us, but we put out good damage. We put out good points. Like, you did really well. I know I did well. That was such a crazy experience. But yeah, we have been talking about this collab dating back to last year, over a year ago, and then again during the free-to-play challenge. So I am so glad we are finally doing it. So guys, please make sure to give HWZ some likes, some follows, some subs on his channel. We're actually doing today a two-part series, by the way. So HWZ came up with this really interesting idea, and I was like, this is fantastic. We should totally do this, where we're going to share one sleeper champion that we each like, that we feel like isn't given enough love in both PvP and PvE. And so today on my channel, surprise, surprise, we're going to talk about PvP and one sleeper champion that we really like on PvP. And then on HWZ's channel, we're going to talk about one sleeper champion we really like in PvE. So make sure to follow both of us so you see both of those parts. But HWZ, since you are the guest today, you are going to lead off with your sleeper champion for PvP. And I am really excited to see what people think about this, because obviously we had to share each other's, champions, so we didn't repeat anyone. So take it away, buddy. Tell me who you got.
So obviously I'm not much of a PvP guy anymore, but I have done my due diligence, guys. I did my 6 months of pushing plat with no sleep, and I had to take a break. But my guy is 100% going to be Shadowkin, free void legendary that you can get from completing Doom Tower. That is Jinro Thestor, the ultimate Raid Shadow Legends sleeper PvP champ. And I know the in-game, late-game mega whale krakens are going to bash my head in about this, but this guy has some potential. Drock, I'm telling you, he has some potential.
I am so excited to hear this, because if you look at the reviews, like, this is the definition of a sleeper. You are not messing around. This is awesome. So I am really curious, because I'll be honest, I've never used him. I've only heard that he's really bad. Obviously his reviews aren't great, but so I'm curious, like, what made you select Jinro? So talk me through why Jinro the Stork. This is great.
So obviously, when you get these champs from Doom Tower, you're like, all right, let me read these kits once. And then you read them, and then you throw them in the vault for the most part. And then at a certain point, you're stuck on a piece of content, or you're doing something. You're like, let me read this kit again. And so I get to Jinro the Stork, and I'm like, okay, this seems pretty interesting here, right? So we started with the A1. Obviously, this guy has a 60% chance booked to increase the cooldown of a target's skills by 2 turns at random. That's not terrible for an A1, considering he has counterattack in his kit. That is not terrible at all, right? And we'll get to the counterattack. The A2 attacks one enemy. It's single target, but hear me out here, because this can make a difference the exact same way that sheep makes a difference, right? You take one champion out of the battle, and that starts to make a difference for you in a big way. This guy can place a 2-turn stun that ignores block debuffs. It ignores block debuffs.
That is big. That is actually really, I've literally never read his kit, HWZ. So this is completely new to me. So that's actually really interesting, because I didn't know he placed a stun debuff for 2 turns and that he would ignore block debuffs when doing it. So that's actually pretty nasty. I'm surprised.
That's super nasty, no?
Yeah, that's good. That's actually really good. Okay.
We're getting nastier here. Let's move to that A3. So he's gonna increase his defense. He has some decent survivability because his base stats aren't terrible. 18k HP, 1.3 defense isn't great, but like he has some. He's gonna increase his defense, give himself some survivability, and place that counterattack on himself. This is on a 4-turn cooldown. It's not great, but that counterattack paired with the A1 is not bad because now you're getting an opportunity to decrease cooldowns. And then we move to that passive, which increases his defense each time he counterattacks. Defense resets every time he takes a turn, but during the counterattacks, he's upping it up. Now, there are no numbers here. This is really weird for a champ to not have numbers here for how much his defense is increasing.
Yeah.
But when attacking, he converts his res into AC, right? And I'm wondering if that's 1-to-1 because it's not specified. Usually we get like 1-to-10 or 1-to-2 or something like that. But I'm like, okay, if this is 1-to-1, this is actually crazy because the issue is sheep when you have all of these debuffs, right?
Yeah.
But if this passive is 1-to-1 and you just build this guy full res and AC and he converts all of that res 1-to-1 into AC, now you don't have to worry about getting sheep because he's going to have more resist than every champion that has sheep. Because
as long as they're not 6-star, that's the one thing. As long as they're not 6-star.
As long as they're not 6-star.
But to be fair, like you wouldn't use this guy if you're an end game Kraken. Like you're really sticking to like 10 champions. So this is really meant to be a series where we're sharing things that maybe a lower level player, maybe not a super end game Kraken, could actually use. And I'll say honestly, I'm very surprised by his kit because it doesn't sound that bad. Like the passive is weird though. What a weird.
It is weird
passive. Like the thing I think I'm confused about is increases this champion's defense each time they counterattack, but then defense resets every time this champion. Like what? like so he builds all his defense up and then he just gives it away. Like what the hell?
Exactly. So when he takes his actual turn, the defense just resets, kind of like resetting at the end of a round type situation. It's weird. I think that they put this champ together and they were like, it's cool for the time. Like when Doom Tower came out, they were like, let's just throw this together and let's not think about it much. Because we didn't have a ton of champs that like converted res to AC or convert a certain metric to crit damage at the time. There was Mithrala was like the only one, and that was like shortly after. I think she came shortly after Doom Tower.
Yeah, right? No, definitely right. Like you're 100% correct. This is not something at that time that was super prevalent. And he's the last Doom Tower champion added, because he's the last one you get. So I think he came around when Bommel came out. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Sometime around then. So what an interestingly weird kit. Like I see where you're coming from here, right? Like, and the other nice thing about this for a sleeper is everybody can get him. If you can finish Doom Tower, everybody can get him. It may take some time, but also the Void Affinity helps you as well. So really interesting kit.
And he's got the provoke on the passive as well. So he's definitely going to provoke. Like most people are using increased attack in arena. Most people. Yep. Or, increased defense if you have a defense-based nuker. But most people are bringing in increased attack in some way. He's gonna provoke that team.
Yeah, I could see him like with his counterattacks locking out a lot of skills potentially. You know what I mean? Just the fact that he gets that counterattack buff. He gets increased defense, which is big, not only for survivability but also for damage. And then if he provokes everybody after his turn, hypothetically, you could see him counterattack people multiple times and do more damage on the counterattack because of the weird passive increased defense ability, but also shut a lot of skills down. So maybe he's not as bad as everyone says, because the reviews on him are like some of the worst in the game. So that's why I love that you picked him for a champion, where it's like, listen, he's not as bad as you think. And now I'm really curious, because we were talking and you were like, you know what? I think I might have to do a video on him. So now I'm like, now I might have to see a video from you at some point on him, HWZ, to see this in action.
Yeah, I got to test it out, bro.
You got to test it out. But I think you're absolutely right with that A2, because immediately what comes to mind is, okay, somebody has a Duchess. doesn't matter. I can still stun people. You know what I mean? Like if they're putting up block debuffs, or like if they're using Helath for block damage, because that also ignores block damage, doesn't matter. And a 2-turn stun is super, super, super powerful. That is a really big deal. There's not a ton of 2-turn stun abilities in the game. So
there might only be 2 or 3. It might be no more than 3, actually.
They'll tell us in the comments down below, I'm sure. I screwed this up on an earlier video with YST where I was like, oh yeah, there's only 1 or 2 block revive, all AoE block revive champs. And people are like, Jock, dude, there's a Nithwi, there's like other people. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. Of course I forgot this stuff, but okay.
And his multipliers are not terrible, bro.
Really?
His multiply on the stun, he has a 4.9.
Okay. All right. That's actually not horrific.
It's not horrific, right?
It's not horrific.
It's not S tier defense-based nuker, right? Because it's only a single hitter.
Yeah.
But a 4.9 for one hit is not bad. And then you got 3.3 on the A1, which is actually great for an A1.
Yeah, that's not horrible. I think the biggest thing that I would say might hold him back, and probably why he has these reviews, is the fact that he lacks an AoE, right? Like he doesn't have an AoE hit.
Yep.
So you'd have to use in the creative way where you're like controlling the champion you really need to control through block debuffs, through block damage, and then getting those provokes or that counter attack up so that he's still shutting people down, like locking people out. He's kind of like your ultra budget, I don't want to say warlord because that's just ridiculous, but like your ultra budget basher, maybe. We'll go with that. An ultra budget basher or an ultra budget. You could actually even say ultra budget Lazarius because he's locking people out for 2 turns, which is what Lazarius does on his kit. So I like this. This is super, super sleeper. Definitely shocked me when you told me about it. That is for sure. All right, cool.
Man, so I'll check them out. But who do you got for the people? You're the PvP master. So
you know, the latent PvP master, the once and only PvP lover back in the day. But I was thinking long and hard about this. Like, who is a champion that doesn't get as much shine as they deserve? You know what I mean? That can really do some nasty stuff that I think has an underrated kit. And this is a champion that's been talked about in the past for sure, but I still think he's viable even in today's meta. And that is Basilius Rowanus. So Basilius is my sleeper PvP pick. If you look at his reviews, they're not that great. You know what I mean? 4.5, 4.4 arena offense. You're kind of like, doesn't seem that impressive. But I still really like this champion a lot because of his kit. And I think he actually has really, really, really solid damage potential on a couple of his abilities. So on the A1, one of the things that I think is underrated about this is you have a chance to steal a buff and then also put up a block buff on a target. So this isn't super useful, to be completely honest, because a lot of times people will have more than one buff, like on a Taurus, or more than one buff on certain champions. But stealing a buff, never a bad thing. Hypothetically, you could, let's say you're going up against someone who has Stone Skin on one of their nukers. You could hypothetically have a chance to steal Stone Skin using the A1, or, steal Stone Skin off of a support champion. So that's never a bad thing off of an A1. It does require accuracy, obviously, and it's 100% chance when booked. That's the other thing to keep in mind. So you're going to steal it if you have the accuracy. So again, this is like one of those niche things that I think isn't that bad. Like the scariest thing with this, of course, just stealing buffs does trigger polymorph, right? Yes, stealing buffs triggers, yes. So you do potentially get polymorphed here, but really the reason why I picked him was because of his A2. And I think this is an ability that's super, super underrated. It's been talked about in the past, specifically for killing Rhodos, because it's a 3-hitter. But the thing that people often forget with this is it's ignoring increased defense, which is something that you have, if you're facing a Sifi, you're facing at all the time. It's ignoring shields. So this isn't as important as it used to be because Narcissus has really tamped down on the shield meta. But every now and then, especially if you're a lower level player, you'll see people with Necrit, you'll see people who have shields up, you know what I mean, who have a bolster set on. So this ability is ignoring that, and it's ignoring block damage buffs, again, which is another thing that you might see in Helath putting that up on champions, or, what's his name, who's super old skill, Roshkar the Tower, is that what it is? Yeah. So it's, or even you could say the new mythical Helath, because Helath puts up a block damage buff on his A2 I think, or A3, his A3
with the provoke.
Yeah, and I've lost to this before, so I think Rowanus is a lot better than people realize. And this ability, this A2, this thing smacks. It's ignoring 50% of defense. You know what I mean? So if you build him in Savage, you got a 75% ignore defense ability. Plus, if you proc Helm Smasher, it's 100%. I mean, like, this is a single target nuke that can obliterate basically anybody. So yeah, I love this. Obviously, it's phenomenal for Rotos. It's phenomenal for anyone who has, like, damage passives that prevent them from dying, that are relying on block damage but not, unkillable. So I love this ability. I love this ability. And then the other thing about his kit that, again, I think is underrated is he does have an AoE, and he has an AoE stun. So he has control. Biggest thing, obviously, nowadays is how much polymorph you're facing. And obviously, the super high level, you're going to face a ton of polymorph, which makes this ability scary. But if you are a mid-level or like an early end game player, this is still viable. You're probably not facing people with full polymorph, whatever. Maybe you're facing 3 or 4 star. So I don't know. There's something about this dude where I feel like he doesn't get the love he deserves, because he can absolutely nuke. And I'll show you how I have him built, because obviously, since this is my channel, I have him built. And I use him a lot for like faction wars and stuff like that. I've pulled him into arena every once in a blue moon. Not as much at the moment right now, because obviously I have the god tier mythical champions. So, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense unless it's a really specific lineup I'd be facing. But I don't know. I like this dude. Have you ever used him? Do you have him?
No, I have not pulled this guy, but the kid is great, bro. And like, obviously in the end game, there's so many other champs that you're going to pick for particular situations, right? The mythicals are doing so much nowadays. They're bringing so much to the table that it's hard to use certain legendaries. Like when I'm doing takeovers, live arena takeovers for people, like, I'm picking the mythicals first, just because they're bringing not only support, but also nukes, and not only nukes, but support. And it's like, when you look at legendaries, epics, and rares, like, you're picking either a DPS or a support with them, essentially, or a CC. Whereas like mythicals, they're bringing everything to the table. Pick your combination. How do you want to win the fight? Like, so, a guy like this, obviously amongst the content creators, amongst YouTubers, you might not see him getting a lot of love, but the ratings just show me that the people who have pulled him are definitely using him, and they are working for him. Like, close to 2,500 arena ratings for this guy is actually not bad. When
you make a valid point. There's a lot of people rating the dude.
A lot of people are rating him, and we're not going to say like 2,500 is a huge number, but compared to some other champs that are rated, like, that's a decent amount of ratings. That's a decent amount of people that took the time to say, hey, I actually use this champ, and he's working for my account, so I'm gonna go and give him a decent rating. Yeah, and I think that speaks volumes.
The funny thing too is I've actually seen people in high level arena use this champ against me. There's one guy in particular, I can't remember his name, but he uses a Basilius. He's got like a +4 Basilius, and it smacks, and it hits really hard, and that's like tippy top arena. That's gold 4, super high up there. So I don't know, just a champion I feel like gets slept on, still is viable. It is such a weird, tough meta at the high level, because mythicals, like you said, they bring everything to the table, which is really tough to ignore. But for certain instances, I do still think you could use Basilius and get a W, especially if you're facing someone like a Rotos, or even a Ronda. Because the other thing too about that triple hitter is you're getting around UDK with that. You know what I mean? You're getting around Ultimate Death Knight. Only one of those hits is getting absorbed by Ultimate Death Knight, and the other two are hitting Rotos. So even if someone throws in an Ultimate Death Knight, you can still kill a Rotos with this ability. Massive ignore defense, also ignore shield, which is so big, and triple hitter, which means, Ultimate Death Knight doesn't stop somebody from dying. So yeah, this is my sleeper pick. What an interesting combo. We've got like the free to play ultra sleeper Jinro, and then like definitely another champion that doesn't get a ton of love in Basilius. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah, man. And I really like that you picked Basilius because this is something that I've been just trying to be cognizant of when looking at champs on my own account. Champions that have ignore defense built into their kit, I feel like will always have some place in arena. Maybe not at the top end accounts, but mid game, early game, any champion that has ignored defense built into their kit is going to 100% be viable, whether they be single target or AoE, or like Basilius, he has, both. And obviously the AoE does not have any ignored defense mechanic, but this is similar to like Queen Eva, right? The A2 is ignoring defense. It's going to come through clutch for you and just destroy something. And then you still got this AoE that can help you break down some damage. Is A1 can come in and do a bit for you as well. It doesn't have a terrible multiplier on it, but these are things to be looking for, guys, when you're thinking about progressing in arena. Does this champion ignore some defense alone? Once I put them in Savage with Helm Smasher, I'm good to go. I should be able to one-shot most things that I'm going to come up against. So great pick on your part, bro.
Appreciate you, man. Well, listen, guys, that's it for our PvP sleepers. We're only sharing one each, super short, but like I said before, we're now going to go to HWZ's channel and share our PvE sleepers, and we've got some really interesting picks there. So, guys, I'm putting the link to HWZ's channel down below in the description, in the pinned comment. Make sure you click on it. Take a look at this other video. And, yeah, man, just so happy to have you finally come on and so excited that we finally got to do a collab together. So I can't wait to do the next one on your channel, brother.
Oh, yeah, man. I appreciate you for having me on, bro.
Awesome.
It's an honor.
Awesome. All right, guys. That's Big Papa Drock and HWZ out.